So yeah, I heard all the chatter. Oh, Jetfire is amazing. He's excellent, but I've never been one to buy into the hype. And when I, in fact, first got the guy in hand, I was a bit iffy on it. I just started to kind of fiddle and pick at him, and I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know. But nevertheless, I do have the new Siege Commander class Jetfire in hand. And it's only fair, I think, that as we look at this guy, we compare him with this guy. The other kind of generation's chug representation of Jetfire that is probably still arguably accurate, at least for some people. I'm not going to include the Voyager here because I think we can probably agree that he's sort of seen his day. With a Voyager size, it doesn't really fit in. I think if you are a generation's mainline kind of chug collector, it's either this guy or this guy. Do you keep your generation's Jetfire? Do you upgrade to the new one? What do you do, man? Well, we're going to try and sort through it all as we review this guy in the latest GotBot True review. So here is the beefy lad known as Jetfire, or as I like to call him, Skyfire, because I like the animation. And I was very iffy when I first got this guy. I really was very iffy. As a matter of fact, when I started to actually record the review, I had some things that I thought that I was going to complain about, or that I wasn't going to like, or I had some ideas of certain things that, honestly, as I'd done the review, turned out to not be correct. And as I'd done the review, turned out that, you know what, that's actually a good thing, or it's actually better than I thought it was. This guy continued to surprise me from beginning to end when it came to his review. And that's not to say he's absolutely perfect. As a matter of fact, this mold tends to have a whole lot of tolerance variation. I've heard of some people having very tight joints in certain locations, very loose joints in certain locations. We're going to talk about all of that. And this is the one instance when I got to say that the packaging actually causes, for me anyway, a high level of concern. And I'll explain why that is when we look at everything to do with this guy over at the table. And with the ominous specter of Jetfire looming, I think it's high time that we finally dig into things here, and we don't have any time to waste. So we're going to start and take a look at the packaging first, which I think poses a very unique problem that I hope we don't see more of in the future. So what could I possibly be talking about when I say that I see a potential problem that I hope we don't see more of in the future? Well, to begin things, we have beautiful artwork of Jetfire on the front here with all of his armor on him looking very G1 toy accurate. And on the side, the artwork like wraps around. We see the arc over here, which I think is very interesting that we see the arc here. Of course, you know, he's, I guess, defending Cybertron until the arc takes off. Over here, the typical kind of like siege artwork, and then we come to the back here where we see the product images, and you see him without his armor, with his armor, plain mode. The armor piece is over here, but you will notice something that nowhere, absolutely nowhere on this box can you actually see the figure inside. There is no window for you to see the figure. I think that's a big problem because it is inviting people to basically take the figure from inside and leave the empty box. They're not even having to like change the figure out and put like a lackluster one in there. Like, I recently heard of a Siege Soundwave box that had just like one of those little, I'm sure you've all seen them by now. There was like Megatron and Optimus and Starscream and Soundwave, and I think there was like a Transformers Prime Bumblebee and Transformers Prime Shockwave, and they're just like, they have waist articulation, and I think the arms can go around, and maybe the head. That's about it. I don't even know what they're called. I want to call them Titan something, but I don't think that's what they're called. They're just like figurines. Anyway, one of those Soundwave figurines was put in a Siege Soundwave box. Now, how somebody who works in a toy department didn't have the sense to look at the plastic thing in the box and look at the picture on the back and say, that doesn't look the same, I'll never know. Like, I don't understand how anyone is that careless at their job. I get that they don't necessarily know if the wrong figure's put in a box or something. Like, I get that. But when you can blatantly look at it and tell, no, this isn't the thing, then I don't get it. And this is coming from somebody who used to work in a toy department. I worked in toys. I know what it's like. And I had lots of stuff that people would return, and it would be taken back at the return counter because, you know, all they're really looking at is the receipt to see if they can return it, fine. And then it would come down to me, and I would have to be the guy to say, I'm not putting this back out on the shelf. This isn't the right product. Or once I said, how did somebody even return this? The price tag on it isn't even from our store. So, I don't know. I don't understand how somebody could let that sort of stuff pass. But in this case, people who would be thieves can get even lazier with it. All you gotta do is take the figure out, close the box over, and then nobody would know. It's awful. I think that the packaging, as beautiful as it is, I think it's awful. Awful, awful. It is just too inviting. And we see the same sort of thing with Titans, except I think a Titan, being as big as what it is, would be a lot harder to like hide in a bag or something. Yes, this guy is quite large, but if you have a big enough bag, or you know, like a woman has a huge purse or something, like, it's not like trying to put a Titan away. So I hope that in the future, with Commander class figures, we see better packaging. This is one time where I do not like the packaging. Usually I'm very indifferent to it. I think that this is a bad idea. That being said, let's move to something I do enjoy more, and that is the Great Big Siege instructions, which I actually kinda like. I think Siege has been doing a good job with their instructions. Of course, my favorite panel is this one that gives you the stats for his armament. For a guy who doesn't like to fight, he's kind of armed right to the teeth. We have the battle mask up here. That doesn't have any kind of score to it. It's just a battle mask. We have the thruster pack. We have whatever these little photon thingies are. They don't have any sort of score. The two larger blasters are quite strong. The two double-barreled things are, again, they're very strong. The accuracy's slightly down on them, as is the, I guess, Fire Blast. His double-barreled, like, hand cannon thing is quite strong, and his chest armor is very strong. As strong as it could possibly be. For a scientist who's more about peace than battle, that's a lot of armament, man. Speaking of his accessories, we have two of these blast effects. They are, as everybody knows by now, in 3 pieces. They can be used just as blast effects, or these couple of pieces here can actually be used like explosion pieces, or like if you're getting, I don't know, hit with like fire blast or something. I like these like extra pieces. Ultra Magnus is going to come with multiple pieces like this too. I think that this is smart. I think that this is fun. I think that these things are a good idea. We have his very strong double-barreled blaster, which he can hold as a double-barreled blaster, or there are actually 2 little handles down underneath here that can fold out. These two can separate and become 2 separate handheld blasters. I think that's so cool. Love this. Love the gunmetal gray up around the muzzles. Love this piece. And then we have 2 of these. The short piece on top is attached by a 5mm peg to the longer piece on the bottom. The piece on the top, it doesn't have any stats. The piece on the bottom, I don't even know if that has stats. I think it does. I think it's pretty strong. But there you go. This is actually 2 separate pieces put together like this. We have 2 of these double-barreled things. I'm holding onto a 5mm peg. These are painted pretty much like his hand blaster with the nice silvery gunmetal gray up near the like double nozzles, and then the rest of it is just like black plastic. I think this goes on his arm when he's in his like armored up mode, but they're pretty cool. I like them. In his plain mode, I sometimes like to use these as sort of thrusters. And then in a package we have this glorious chest plate. I love it. It is painted a lot. I'm pretty sure it's black plastic, and the Autobot symbol, the red and the white, is all painted on, if I'm not mistaken. And I wondered where the helmet is. When you open it up, his battle helmet is inside. I'm pretty sure that's just translucent blue plastic, all painted white. It pops in and out very easily. The hardest part is opening this chest flap piece. I am concerned about picking off some of the paint over time. Also, just to be clear, all of these pieces can in fact go together as one, I don't even know what you call it, shippy type of thing, I guess. I don't know. I don't even know what you'd call it. But I'm going to kind of put it together just to give you guys an idea. This piece turns around. It's his handheld blaster. Back near the back there are two little starts. Those two little starts can go lodged up in the chest plate. Right near the back there's two little rectangular openings. And you do leave the mask in here. You can probably see the blue there. That's the mask left in there. So we take the blaster, we find those two little starts near the back, and we put that on, and it looks like this, and it's pretty, like, it's okay solid. It's alright solid. Then we take the pieces like this that are two pieces together, and there's like a slot along the side. There's a fin on the top of the short blaster. That fin will lock in on the side there, and the fin will lock in on the side over here to look like that. Then we have these pieces left, and these pieces you're going to turn them upside down. So the bottom of them is what's facing up. There's a 5mm peg up front. There's a 5mm peg near the back. When we come down under here, you will notice that there's almost like a triangular section notched out up there. There's a triangular section at the top of this. This should fit up there. It's a bit of a tight fit, but it works. It's probably a smart idea, though I did not do it, admittedly. I probably should have tabbed these in before I tabbed the blaster in on the bottom. But roughly in the end, this is what you get, and it looks kind of like this up closer. There you go, and like, I guess it's all right. Like, it's a way to put it all together and hold it together. That's the way it looks underneath. It's okay. At least it's not like pieces just left flopping about. That being said, what can you do with this now that you have it? Because it's kind of too big for him to hold in his hand, really. Well, you can do this with it. Like, you can put it on Jetfire's back. Now, it makes him extremely back heavy, and he is sort of leaned forward there now. But you do have the option of putting it there, and at least it's storage. I will give credit where credit is due. But we're going to remove it and look at the base Jetfire first in comparison to his generation's brethren. So let's deal with the elephant in the room first. Which Jetfire is the better one? Because when I say brethren, what I actually mean is the Generations Jetfire, that's a leader class figure, and the new Commander class Jetfire, because I think it's safe to say that the old Voyager Jetfire, as cool as that mold is probably better suited for a different character now. I don't think it stands up well against the test of time as an iteration of this character when we have two obviously more accurate versions. Now, of course, if you have that Voyager Jetfire and you're happy with it, hey man, that's wonderful for you and I'm happy for you. But I think most people would look at like a Generations styled Jetfire and look at this as the debate. Now, if you're looking at like an MP style Jetfire, you have this guy, or you have Fans Toys Phoenix, who I did look at here on the channel. I absolutely do not like that thing at all. I infinitely like this Commander class figure better. It's not to say the Fans Toys one is bad. I understand why people love it, but I can't get behind that as a good figure. He was broken right out of package, and nothing felt fun converting him. He looks excellent. He looks amazing in both modes. So I give Fans Toys credit there for that. But it's not fun going between the two modes. I looked at Phoenix a long time ago in episode 277, if you want to know why I don't feel good about him. He looks amazing. It's not for me. So, since, you know, the new Commander class one is in the Siege line, it's a mainline, you know, Chug Generations, whatever you want to call it, type of figure, I wanted to compare it to the other offering in the main line that we have that makes the most sense. And obviously the new Commander class figure is much larger. Here's the funny thing. When the original released, it was when Generations Leader class figures were retailing for $59.99 here in Canada, and the new Siege Jetfire retails for $119.99 here in Canada. That's a difference of $60. $60 Canadian, which is basically the cost of another Leader class figure. Now, here's where things get fun. When I got the Leader class Jetfire, I actually found him for a mistaken price and got him for $29.99, which was at the time the going price for a Voyager. So he was put in at a Voyager price point by mistake. I got the Commander class Jetfire for $89 Canadian, which is a few dollars cheaper than the going American rate when you do the conversion. So I was like, okay. If you go from 29 to 89, the difference is, that's right, still $60. So the question here to tell if this guy is guilty or innocent of his price would be to look at whether or not there is $60 worth more value here. We're not really going to get the quintessence involved here for guilty or innocent because Commander class is a brand new class. It's not a price increase or anything like that. But I wanted to mention as we go along, because that's the sort of eye I want to use to measure this guy. Is he worth really double the price of what this guy should be, value-wise, retail-wise? Is he worth $60 more? Well, we'll see as we go. When you look right here, obviously, yeah, you know what? There is definitely more plastic and a lot more plastic used on this guy. He is significantly bigger. Is that better or not? Well, I think it's debatable because it depends on your sense of scale. I have often said that I feel like a Leader class size works well for figures that are bigger than kind of your average bot, but smaller than things like combiners. So characters maybe like Ultra Magnus or Jetfire work well as a Leader class, traditional Leader class figure because it makes them bigger than regular figures, but smaller than things like combiners. The new Commander class figure is, and I'm going to use Superion here as an example, he is, as you can see, about the same size. In fact, if we reposition things here, then I ask you, what fits your sensibilities for scale better? Should Jetfire be the same size as Superion, Bruticus, Menasor? Or should he be a little bit smaller? If you think a little bit smaller, then maybe stick with your Generations one. If you think bigger, then maybe go with the Commander class one. That being said, while scale is definitely one aspect of consideration that should be made here, accuracy to the character and especially his animation model is another, and the Siege Jetfire, the Commander class one, is a 10 million. It is super duper hyper accurate to the animation of Jetfire. It's like you can't, I don't know if you could ask for anything more. Right down to the, and everybody knows this by now, the symbol that can spin around so that you can't have him be a Decepticon until he realizes that Decepticons are bad and I don't want to fight and conquer. I just want to do science. Yay, science! And he becomes, of course, an Autobot. Come on, man. I mean, the accuracy is there, and it's a little thing like that that means the world. What about weight? Our good buddy, the Generations Jetfire, weighs in at 293 grams. The Siege one, who is so tall that he has now gone off screen, weighs in at 667 grams. And that's without his armor on him or his blast effects. With those items on him, he actually weighs in at an almost staggering 775 grams. That means that the plastic content here is almost 3 times that, 2.64 as a matter of 2.65 times the plastic content of the fully loaded Generations version. I was absolutely all set to say that the new Siege one, no, he's not worth the extra value, or he's not worth the price, but you know what? Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is. Even if we look at the original Jetfire, if we look at it for the mistaken price of 30 bucks, you know what? It was a good buy. I mean, for 30 bucks, yeah, he was worth that. Definitely. He was bigger than a Voyager. He was worth 30 bucks. If we look at the Siege one, I got him for 89, basically 90 bucks. We're looking at 30 bucks and 90 bucks. The Siege one was 3 times the price. Guess what? We have about 3 times the plastic. The pricing actually makes sense. Is he guilty or innocent? He's innocent. But what about the grading? I've already said 10 million for the look of the guy. We already know he has all of this junk on him. But it's all in one piece. What can we do? Can we make it armor? Of course we can. You guys know by now that we can. I'm going to do this pretty quickly and easy because I'm sure we've all seen it by now. So as we well know by now, all of these pieces can go on him. Oh, I guess I'll point this out now because I'm about to put it in there. We all know too that the hands here can open, or the fingers here can open and close. I know that this is part of articulation, but I'm going to cover it now because we have a little piece in here that I think is brilliant. The old leader class Ultra Magnus from Combiner Wars had fingers that could open and close like this, but in the middle of his hand you just had to try and like hold his blaster in there and like kind of wrap the fingers around. It didn't work well. Here, however, when we close the hand, as everybody knows, we can put his blaster in the hole that's there, or we could separate this into 2 separate blasters and put one in each hand. We take the double cannon barrel pieces and we put them onto his arms, though to be fair, while we have 5mm ports here, we also have them down on the legs, so if you wanted to put them down there, you certainly have that option as well. With both of those on, we can go to his head next and take the battle mask, the nicely painted battle mask, and up on his head we have a little spring-loaded translucent piece right there in his forehead. There is, I just dropped that, there is like a tab in here. It should slot in there. I do find lining it up to be a little bit of a nuisance, but once you do it, it goes in fine. I have heard that on some people's copies that's very tight and very difficult to get back out. It's not too bad on mine. Then we come to the little blaster pieces. There's a 5mm port right there. It goes on over a peg that's up right here. You can fold that peg away if you're like, I don't like those pegs up on the wings. You can fold them away if you want, but I wanted to leave them out to attach these. I'm going to put the other one on. I wanted to show this piece because I'm not even 100% sure I'm doing it right. It looks to me like we are supposed to use a rectangular peg and put it into a round hole. That's the way I've been attaching these here. If there's a different way and I am doing this incorrectly, somebody please let me know. But I think that's how these pieces go on. Beautiful. By the way, back here I think all of this is red and this is white paint. I hope it lasts over time. These pieces I think are white plastic, but I'm not 100% sure. It might all be white paint. It looks glorious, I know that much. Finally, we come to the chest and we will open that flap out. The one on the other side is already opened out. And then on the inside of the chest we have like a little rectangular slot here and here. They should fit on over the 2 of these. I find that the easiest way to do it is to actually, if I can do it here now, lift off the chest pieces. And that way you can get your hand in behind them to kind of push the chest on into place. Just trying to push this onto the concealed chest, I find is a nuisance, and I usually only get one side on instead of both. Once I have the chest piece on, then I can just collapse the chest pieces back in, and here we have him in his armed up, souped up, ready for battle mode. The scientist can't do science today. He has Decepticons to blast. And yes, this does look absolutely amazing in my estimation. Extremely a G1 toy accurate, though not perfectly toy accurate, but pretty darn close. Okay, so we go now into the articulation next. What is his articulation like? How does it compare to the Generations? I'm just going to speak through it as we go. The head goes left, it goes right, it can look up a little bit, down a little bit. It's effective enough, but I'm not going to lie, it's not as good as the Generations. The Generations looks up a lot more. Then we come to the arms. They can go well up, well down. The wings are kind of in the way, so you can't go all the way around because the wings are in the way. Same range really with the Generations. Out, and you hear all of the ratchets. The arms, both arms can go way out to the side. The Generations can go way out to the side. Coming down here, my shoulder often likes to come untabbed. I've heard of the Generation shoulders coming untabbed. They never did with mine. So I think the shoulders on the Generations, a little bit better. The bicep swivel, same as on the Generations bicep swivel. The elbow on this guy, a little bit deeper. It's over 90 degrees. There's a couple of hinges in here, it's over 90 degrees. So I give the elbows to the Siege figure. The wrists, we have wrist rotation and articulated fingers as mentioned. The Generations one doesn't have either of that, plus the forearms on the Generations one are very like hollow, waffly, whatever you want to call it. This hand likes to, like, I've heard of the wrist being very loose on some people. All you have is a little round peg here and a round slot up there that it slots into. That's what holds it in place. It's not bad on mine. This hand is looser than the other hand. It's not bad on mine, but it is there. You can, of course, just thicken it up a little bit and it will probably hold just fine. This guy, besides for having wrists and hands, he also has something that the Generations doesn't have, a bit of a waist. Yes, it's limited, but he does have it. Getting these up out of the way. The legs can go forward that far, about the same as the Generations. Back about this far, about the same, maybe slightly more than the Generations. Thigh swivel, like the Generations. Knee to 90 degrees. The Generations can go over 90 degrees. The toes, they tilt down and up. The heel tilts down and up. There is an ankle tilt. I've heard of the ankles being either very loose or very tight. Mine are fairly tight, but I don't feel like I'm going to break anything. All this is painted too. I do worry about scraping the paint off. They fold way in. It looks awful, but it's a nice tight ankle joint. Honestly, fantastic articulation. There's really nothing more that I could ask for it, especially considering the only thing that I could really ask for, and Starscream wife didn't like this, is it'd be nice if his backpack had the option of coming off, but maybe it's better it doesn't, so that you can hold on to like right here for stability of the figure if you're doing stuff with him. Honestly, the articulation is 10. I don't think that for what it is, I don't think, about the only thing it's missing is individually articulated fingers, and sometimes you don't even get that on, like, you know, Masterpiece and Masterpiece inspired figures, so I don't think there's anything more I could want. Slightly better range of motion on a couple of things, but basically 10. Right now the guy's getting a 10. He's fantastic. He's very hefty. He has presence. He looks amazing. I give credit where credit is due. I'm surprised because I was not sold on this guy originally. Also, I'll note that he doesn't have hollow bits. You don't see at least any hollow bits on him. If there is any, it's covered in with panels. The arms I already mentioned on the Generations one, and the backs of the legs on the Generations one are a bit hollow, a little bit. Then we have the plane mode. And to do the plane mode, of course, we have to do the conversion. And it's pretty great. Now, I do want to point out a couple things here kind of as we go, I suppose. And I'll talk about it. I might not necessarily show it because everybody else is sort of showing it. We begin by bringing this out. Now, there is space in here. I don't know if people can see it. I'm going to try and readjust this slightly just so you can see what I'm talking about in here. In right there, you'll notice that we have a slot here and a slot here. Those two slots can accommodate Titan Masters or Prime Masters. This also can push down. But yeah, those slots can accommodate Titan Masters or Prime Masters. So we bring that down over his back. Grand, dandy, wonderful. Then we, and by the way, if you're keeping count, right now he can carry two other figures. Even if they're Prime Masters, he can carry them. Then we open out the wing, like that, and flip down this piece right there. Same on the other side. We open out the wing and flip down that piece. And I'm going to turn the guy around so we can see the next piece we flip down. And with him turned around, we can come up here and flip out this wing piece. And we can do the same on the other side. And flip out that wing piece. And if you're so inclined, you can even bring the wings down. And really, that's a lot of the upper part of the jet done. I didn't bring up the little kind of tail wings back there, but you can do that now too if you want. Next part I would probably go for is closing these chest tabs, because I didn't have that done. And I'll untab the chest and I'll untab the chest. Wonderful. The arms. Next. Open out the wrist. Then there's like a black handle in here and a whole section that you flip out, and then you flip the entire hand back in its place. And if you want, I guess you can straighten out that little handle there. You're going to do the same thing on the other side as well. Okay, so now that we have the arms in, we need to collapse them, and all they've really shown the instructions is like a curvy, swervy S. Like, it kind of doesn't make sense, but really all you're doing is kind of accordioning. You know what I'm talking about. The arms in and pushing that piece up. You're going to do that with the other arm as well. Just so we're clear, showing this conversion's a bit of a beast, but once you have the arms accordioned in, we can sort of deal now with the rest of the upper part of the plane. You untab a shoulder, and you untab a shoulder. You bring these down, and you sort of start to fold them out to the side. And then you bring this whole section up, and the whole nose cone flips out, and then the whole nose cone piece can come up. But before we do that, I just wanted to note, as others have, that this blue cockpit section opens up. There's a piece in here that you can pull out. Ninja Bill took a guess at it being the brain module. Maybe it is. But if you take that out, you can put another Titan Master or Prime Master in there. That means so far he's carrying 3 figures. I'm not going to take it out, but you can do it. So you bring that up and you fold out the entire nose cone section. And then these sections right here, using this little kind of tab here, you fold them in the rest of the way. And same thing, fold it in the rest of the way. And largely that's the upper body done. Now, the arms, they're still not in. We have to fold this shoulder panel piece all the way in. That's the most uncomfortable piece of the transformation. When we fold it all the way in, we're going to reorient the arms, because there's a circular slot on the top of it, and there's a circular peg up where? It's up here somewhere. Oh, right there and right there. And that's where the arms are going to peg into. So we bring that down all the way. We turn this, and you know the orientation's right when you have this black handle facing on the bottom, and we will push that in. Same over here. We bring that all the way down, put that together. We push these up and in. Bring that handle out. That's what we have so far. Then we can bring these pieces down on the side, and there's a little, see if I can show this. There's a little rectangular, like, tab, I guess, right there. And inside these, kind of up underneath, there's a little rectangular slot that goes on over that pad, or that tab, sorry. And I didn't mention this. There's also a little like tab section on the front of this. It also tabs it on the side of like the cockpit section. Whew. And on a very warm day, I can finally say that once you have the top of the plane done, this is what it looks like. The hardest part here is making sure that these two arm pieces are put up over the circular pegs, though you can see them tab in. Like, you can watch and make sure you have it lined up before you put these side panels on. If they're not tabbed in, those side panels will not lock into place. You need to make sure that these two arms are tabbed up over the circular pegs, and then you can put these on. A lot of people have complained about poor tolerances here. I wonder if they're just missing making sure something is tabbed in or not, because I myself have missed it as well. With the upper part of the plane done, we can now move to the lower part. I'm going to just sort of lift these side flaps out to the side for now. By the way, if I didn't mention it earlier, you can also do full splits out to the side. Like if I pick that up, you can do absolute full splits out to the side. I don't think I mentioned that. Oddly, front and back have ratchets. The knee has ratchets, but out to the side doesn't. It's a bit strange. Okay, so lower legs, we're going to focus in on that next. And focusing in on the lower legs really kind of means coming to the lower body. We have panels on the inside of the leg. They're going to open up and flip around to the back. When they flip around to the back, there's going to be a peg hole that will go down over this round peg here, and of course this round peg over right there. So we're going to begin by trying to open, and like that one opens nicely, the other one opens a little more harshly, but we're going to bring this around. Do you see that peg hole right there? It's going to go over that peg right there if you use the right hinge to flick the leg back. And it goes like that. We're going to do the same thing on the other side so that we have two legs that look like this. You will note now that we have an inner leg here that is very hollow. We're going to combine our wars the legs in. When we do so, there's a rectangular peg on the hip of both legs that will go into a slot that's kind of on this side of the leg on both legs. And yikes, was that scary, because trying to tab in these legs here is brutal on my copy. We fold in, and we fold in the heels next. We fold the foot up over, and then if you haven't done so already, you can turn the guy around and fold down this side piece and this side piece. Now, I said that he was able to carry 3 figures. If we push this forward, it pushes out a handle in here. So there's 5, because you can make a figure that can hold a 5mm peg, hold on to that and be kind of, you know, coming in from underneath to be dropped off into battle or something. So that's 5. Same on the other side. That's 6. We will also note here that there's, where is it? Landing gear in his legs there, and there's also landing gear up under the cockpit section, so he can like land. And after all that, there is the beautiful plane mode. I said he could hold 3 of the Titan Masters, Prime Masters, whatever. He can hold 2 more figures underneath with those red peg handles. He can also hold 2 more figures underneath with the black peg handles I pointed out earlier. That makes for a total of 7 other characters that this guy can hold. Impressive for a guy who's probably best known as a transport anyway. We can also come here and add a blast effect there, because that's thrust coming out. The big thrusters on his back. We can take, you know, these pieces can go on to the like chest armor and stuff, but I like to put those pieces here on the back legs as like 4 extra thrusters. you know, because the guy's so big, he needs that extra power. And then you can put these down, and there's a 5mm peg right here. Earlier we used it in robot mode to attach the armor when it was all put together in one contraption piece. You can use it again here and attach it, and now he has blasters going toward the back of him, 2 more blasters coming out the front, and this is him in all of his plain glory. I think it's pretty safe to say that the guy is quite amazing. The articulation in the paint is impeccable. His weight makes him absolutely worth the price of admission. What about that transformation? Couple of fiddly aspects, couple of things that were just hard to show. It is definitely an extremely impressive transformation. I'm going to say that the score for the transformation is about a 9. However, since he was already getting a clear 10, getting a 9, this guy's about a 9.5. And even the issues that I experienced with some fiddliness with the transformation, there's been a lot of tolerance variation on this guy. Loose joints on one copy are tight, super tight on another. So I can only speak for my copy. Yours might be different. Either way, I don't think he's bad. I don't think I've heard anybody say he's particularly bad. I think it's an easy 9.5 to 9.75 figure. He's not quite perfect, but he's pretty darn close. And here we are once again, and color me absolutely astonished. This guy he is amazing. I have to admit, he is amazing. There is a lot of paint on him, a lot of molded in detail. On mine, generally the joints feel very good. The ratchets are like clicky, but they're not like overly clicky. His wrists generally stay in on mine. This one here is definitely looser, but it doesn't just fall out or anything. Like, I do need to exert a little bit of pressure to do it. You know, like, I don't know. It's all right. You can thicken up either the peg here or the 5mm port that's inside if you feel a need to. He is extremely beefy, a lot more beefy than I thought he was. I was all set to say, there's not an extra $60 worth of value here, but you know what, just in the materials used and the parts count, I have to admit there is. I see the value here because I know that there's more molds that had to be cast for the different parts. I know that there's 3 times the amount of plastic used. I get it. Yes, I think that this was logically priced. I really do. Even if it is too high of a price for some people. There's an argument to be made, though, that for as excellent as the molding and the paint is, as amazing as it is that he can hold, technically, 7 characters, there's an argument to be made that he's really too back heavy, because mine does like to lean back a bit. I don't understand why there weren't ratchets out to the side. I don't get that at all. Now, mine stands fine, but I've heard of people having issues with his legs just like kind of giving out on him. That's unfortunate because he is so top heavy. And there's an argument to be made that he's too big. I feel like he's going to be my Jetfire, even though he's too big. Like, it's just one of those allowances I'm going to make because he is so very animation accurate. And even at first, like, Starscream wife wasn't a huge fan of this guy at first, but the more I fiddled with him and showed her things and little features like the chest thing and the hand thing, and the more that she looked at the animation model and compared it to this, the more she said, it's Skyfire, man. It's Skyfire. And she's right. I think this is a fine figure, a great figure. I think the scale is accurate. I think the scale here is inaccurate, but I do think that it is extremely animation accurate, if that makes any sense to you. I think he's going to stand as my Jetfire, but I wish he was honestly about 2 inches smaller. I would be happy with him not being quite as big as this. But that's just me, and it depends on your collection. I don't really like him the same size as a combiner, but you know what? I give the allowance, and here's why. Because I know that I have more Decepticon combiners than I have Autobot combiners. So maybe the Autobot ranks could use a little bolstering, and who better to do it than this guy? The thing that I find the most hilarious is that he has so much armor and can get so armed up for defense when the character doesn't even like to go into battle, really. He's a scientist. Just so happens he's a strong scientist. Anyway, let me know what you think about this guy. He was a pleasant surprise to me, top to bottom. He's excellent. I can see why you might not get him if you think that he's too big and the size is a little obnoxious. I totally get it, and there is no issue with keeping this guy. He's still a great figure, but I get the hype now because he is just that good. Anyway, let me know what you guys think about him. You know I love to hear from you. Again, if you're in a position to help the channel to grow, there is a link down in the description. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already done so. It helps the channel out so very much. Check out Universal Collision Season 2, Episode 2, premiering this coming Friday. The live stream show, that's going to be Thursday. A lot of stuff going on. You know I appreciate it when you guys come by, give me some of your very valuable time, and I look forward to the next time that you and I get together to have another visit either in the live streams or right here inside the videos.